Yeah, my experience in as a priest in the Diocese of Baton Rouge, Louisiana, was a very varied one, actually. First of all, I went to America for my theology training, and that in itself was great because the church is a missionary church there, obviously, because the Catholics were in the minority. And so we were trained with that perspective, so that while we had a theological training, obviously, we also had a simultaneous pastoral training as well. And my experience there was in varied assignments. My first was actually working in an institution for those who were mentally disturbed, which was a total new experience for me. And also those who are who today would be considered challenged in various ways. Then I taught, for example, in a primary school in the French Quarter in New Orleans, and also, of course, did work in parishes as well. So my training was definitely quite different, to what probably I would have ever gotten if I had stayed in Ireland. And the reason I went over there for training was because the vocation director at the time said, look, if you come over here and be trained here, then you'll know the people you're working with, you'll have a better understanding of the culture, and you will also have an experience of the people. So I was glad I did. So my assignments were varied, it was between parish. I spent a lot of my time teaching in both primary school, high school, and university. Also spent some time actually in a juvenile institution for young people who broke the law. Spent a lot of time as well in the area of adult religious education, providing catechesis for adults, because obviously catechizing children without catechizing the adults wasn't really very effective, and I enjoy that. And so I spent a lot of time actually doing that as well. And the people actually were also very varied, because even in New Orleans itself, you had people of Hungarian extraction, you had French extraction, you had people there from Haiti, people there from Cuba, you had, of course, the Cajuns, who were Acadians, who were kicked out of Canada, and fantastic people. Fantastic people. Now, the climate was another thing, which was hot and humid all year round, which is probably one of the reasons that when I retired that I came back to Ireland, and I would never have left the people, actually, but the climate was very oppressive because it was pretty well hot and humid all year round there as well. My experiences with the people was absolutely fantastic. The church was very vibrant, and the people had a great sense of ownership and responsibility for the church, and so they didn't simply go to church, they actually were church and assembled. And that's why the spirit of the liturgy was so powerful and so alive. And oftentimes if the mass was less than an hour, people would say, Father, you were in a hurry today, were you? Mm-hmm. So they expected, as so to speak, to get value for their money, when they came to Sunday Mass. Obviously the parishes were quite interesting, because many of the parishes had their own schools, and so I spent a lot of time as a pastor interacting too with the students in the schools. We had Mass for the primary school and the high school, every week, and I suppose everybody had to kind of pitch in, because for the schools, obviously, parents had to pay tuition, some couldn't afford it, so the parish fundraised, so everybody had to kind of pitch in. So it was a great sense of community, and the church then, as I said, was very vibrant and very alive. And I think the image there was, like Jesus, when he established his relationship with the church, that of a bridegroom and a bride. So it was a little bit like that, the parish priest was kind of the bridegroom and the parish was kind of the bride. And so just as in a marriage, all work together, share their gifts with one another, and so on and so forth. So overall, it was a very enlivening, a very creative, a very fulfilling experience during my time there. I also, of course, there too, in the seminary itself, emphasized the importance of pastoral counseling, because in America when something happened in a family or with individuals, the priest was the first one that they would call, actually. And so the priest then had to be able to decide, you know, does this person, can I help this person with the formation that I have, or do I need something, you know, more developed because I cannot provide the help. So we were all trained as pastoral counselors so that we could make intelligent decisions. I also went, because I had always an interest in education, so I went to the University of San Francisco, you know, where I got a doctorate in education, again, in order to be able to help the people and create programs, especially for teenagers and for adults. Part of my experience as well was doing retreats, actually, for young people, which was a great experience, where we would go off maybe for a weekend or maybe sometimes even for a week, especially with the older students, where they had to leave their phones behind them and their radios and all the rest of that stuff as well, and find out that they could actually live with those things. But overall, the experience was very positive and, as I said, very enlivening during my time there.